Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to High Heat Network's video blog and the preview and prediction show of the National Championship game that will take place this evening at 9:23, I believe, is the scheduled tip-off on CBS or Channel 4 if you are in the Northeast area. We are going to be bringing you some coverage of the past of UConn and Butler, as well as some things you can expect to see in tonight's game. Some things we have picked up along the course of the tournament, and in the end we will give you a prediction on who we think will win and why. But first, let's start with the relative underdog in this game. Let's start with Butler. Butler defeating VCU in a game that the final score depicted was probably game definitely a little bit closer than the final score. Butler ended up winning that game, 8-10 points. When in actuality the game was probably played closer to the 3-4 point range most of the day. We'll start around the round table here. We will start with Joe Landini. Joe is going to bring you his opinions on the Butler VCU game, and then we'll go to Rich Raymond.
Well, Butler basically did what they had to do, and that was shut down Joey Rodriguez, who had minimal points, and he did dish out 8 assists, but Shelvin Mack basically owned him. The entire game, VCU started this game on a run, like they have this entire tournament, hitting their threes and such. And Jamie Skeen was absolutely amazing with 27 points. But the fact was, aside from Skeen and a few points here and there by Burgess, Butler's defense just shut him down. It really wasn't even fair how well Butler's defense played against this team. They basically did what teams would do against LeBron James and the Cavs last year, and that was let LeBron score all of his points and see what the rest can do. And they did. They let Jamie Skeen score all his points, and the rest of Butler's team, the rest of VCU's team, really didn't help him much.
Yeah, Butler really showed their dominance underneath the basket with their power and size. They out-rebounded VCU 46-30. Matt Howard did an excellent job underneath. Like Joe said, Skeen did have a day for VCU, but Butler's defense did do a good job shutting down Rodriguez, who just had 3 points. He hit 1 3 in the game. I think he went like 1 for 8 shooting from the field. So Butler really did do a good job underneath. Shelvin Mack had a good day. Matt Howard had a good day. But in the end, this game came down to Butler's power and size underneath with their rebounding and the fact that they hit their free throws late in the game. I think the team went 76% from the free throw line, which helped give them the edge over VCU.
Also seemed like towards the end of the game that Shaka Smart seemed a little bit outcoached. I felt like Brad Stevens had a good game plan of going in, whether or not it was Joe's philosophy of letting Skeen shoot and score as many points as he needed to score, but shutting down all of his role players and other guys. But you'll also notice that towards the end of the game, Skeen did hit that one big three, but other than that, he wasn't really taking the shots down the stretch. And again, it has to be attributed to Brad Stevens and how he designed the defensive strategy and how they were going to beat VCU. VCU out-defensed the defensive team in Florida State prior to this, but they really got beat down low, like Rich said, and they got really manhandled up top. Joey Rodriguez not having the day that he wanted to have at all, and that really put a damper on VCU's plans and prevented them from winning this basketball game. We're going to move now. We'll start with Rich here. UConn against Kentucky. I know you watched this game with great intent, as we all did. What were some of the things that you picked up on why UConn was able to win this game and why this game was a pretty good game?
This was a great game. Both teams came out and played excellent defense. To be honest, I think UConn really got away with this one. Kentucky had a bad day shooting from the free throw line. Brandon Knight struggled from the field, even though he did have 17 points, and he went 6 for 23 shooting. Kemba Walker had under 20 points. Jeremy Lamb only had 12. But the fact that UConn did out-rebound Kentucky was the reason that they were able to come away with this 1-point victory.
I'm going to have to disagree with you. The rebounding margin was not the reason why UConn won this game. Kentucky lost this game. UConn didn't win this game. Kentucky lost this game. Down the stretch with about 4 minutes to go, Kentucky starts making stop after stop with UConn missing shot after shot. The problem was on Kentucky's offensive end, where they didn't they basically didn't make any of their shots. Like, you're talking about Terrence Jones and Brandon Knight just missing the key shots late, and their youth really showed. For the second time straight, Brandon Knight didn't shoot well against UConn, and quite honestly, Kemba owned him. But the fact of the matter is, when you have that many opportunities late in the game and you still only lose by 1 point, it just goes to show you that Kentucky really lost this game late, because there was about a 3-minute stretch there where it seemed like no one scored.
I'm going to have to take a little bit of it from both arguments. I think that, and throughout the broadcast, if you did watch the game, the commentators for the game kept bringing up the game in Maui and how it affected the players of Kentucky. If that game had any impact on anything that took place on the floor in Houston this weekend, that's pathetic. That game was played over a month ago, 2 months ago, depending upon, whenever it was. I forget the actual date of the Maui Invitational. But, I mean, that's what, 5-10 games into the season, the Maui Invitational? You should be seasoned by now. You should be a team by now. And I'm very disappointed with the way Kentucky handled themselves down the stretch. A little bit like Joe said, they were unable to capitalize on offensive chances. They did play pretty good defense, but you have to wonder whether this comes back to John Calipari. He's got a team of individual talent, which he always seems to have, whether it was at Memphis or in his first year at Kentucky. The individual talent and the kind of freestyle ball that they do play may have caused Knight to shoot 6 of 23 from the field, and that's something that you never expected to see happen. Terrence Jones had a pretty good game, but he didn't really shoot the ball that well. And frankly, Harrelson, who was the story of the tournament for them thus far, and what he was able to do didn't show up at all. And against UConn's inconsistency of a big guy, Oriaki is not someone that I would lean on in the Final Four, and definitely not in tonight's game for the national championship. Kemba did his thing. Lamb, failed to step up and really, rise to the occasion for the game, so I expect something big out of him tonight. But, UConn sneaks away with the victory. But again, like Joe said, I'm going to have to steal from a little bit of both here. UConn sneaks away with a victory that Kentucky lost for themselves. I think that Jim Calhoun got out-coached in the late of the second half of this game, and regardless of whether or not Calhoun had the right offensive plays called, his team did not capitalize on those offensive plays. And defensively, Kentucky got wide open shots. They just didn't hit wide open shots. And I'm ultimately going to have to question Liggins' decision to shoot a contested three there at the end. He did have a little bit of space, but that's from deep NBA range. I would have liked to have seen someone else shoot that basketball. But he was there, stepped up to the moment. If he had hit it, we'd all be saying that Liggins took a great shot and that things would be going well for Kentucky right now. We'll move on to tonight's game. We'll start with Butler. Give me an impact player of whom Butler can lean on tonight in tonight's game. We'll start with Joe Landini.
Well, I've been riding Shelvin Mack ever since the start of this tournament started. I've said in my blogs, I've said online, I've said everywhere that Shelvin Mack's been along with Brandon Knight, has been one of the best guards in the tournament. Unfortunately, Shelvin Mack now has to go against one of the best guards in the tournament. So for that reason, I think they may cancel out each other, and I'm going to go to Matt Howard. Howard is way above anything UConn has had in years. Howard, with his Cinderella-type prowess, his ability to step out and shoot the three now, which is totally different from last year. He's made over 53s this year. He only made 3 last year. So he's gonna get Oriaki to have to guard him outside. And I mean, one quick pump fake, Oriaki's in the air, and there goes Howard driving to the lane. So I think the impact player for Butler is Matt Howard, who has been really the emotional and on-court leader for this Butler Bulldog team.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with either Matt Howard or Shelvin Mack. I'm going to take Shelvin Mack in this case. I think for the reasoning, he's going to want to have a big game tonight, especially since he's going up against Kemba Walker. He's going to really want to have a coming out party and show that he is one of the better players in this mid-major conference. He's going to want to lead his team to the victory. They don't want to go home again with another loss in a national championship game. I think Shelvin Mack is going to have one of his better games of his college career tonight, even though he is going up against Kemba Walker.
I think that it's going to be difficult for Mack to score tonight because of several things. Connecticut's guard play is better than Butler's guard play, regardless of whether or not you think Shelvin Mack is a as an outstanding player or whether he's just a a mediocre talent from a mediocre conference and a pretty good team from that conference. And a team that's been to the Final Four the last 2 years in the national championship. I think that Mac's going to have trouble to score tonight. I think if they're going to win, it has to come from guys like Van Zandt and other guys that you may not have heard of as much as you've heard of a Howard or a Mac. Van Zandt hit a big three down the stretch against VCU, and I think they're going to have to lean on him as well as Howard to really carry things. I think Mac's going to have his handful defensively, and down the stretch it's going to hurt him and the amount of energy that he's going to have to exert in order to keep up with Kemba Walker. Let's go to UConn now. Pick a player and why.
I'm going to have to pick a combination of two players. I'm going to have to go with the bigs of Alex Oriaki and Charles Akwandu. I think that with the physicality of Butler, how they play physical and hard underneath, Akwandu and Oriaki are going to have to be big and pull down rebounds tonight, not allow Butler to get second chance points. Sure, Kemba Walker and Jeremy Lamb are going to get their points tonight, but I think for UConn to be successful tonight, they're really going to have to play big, play physical, and pull down rebounds and try and shut down Matt Howard.
Shutting down Matt Howard's not going to happen. Let's just talk about that right now. Matt Howard's just far above him, and it's been proven the entire year, and the reason why Matt Howard's been great the entire year and all of last year. But I want to see what Jim Calhoun's got. I mean, after being outcoached by Calipari that whole second half, and being at the age that he is in 68, and not seeing what his future is because it's so foggy right now, whether he's going to retire or whatever. I want to see what Jim Calhoun has left in the tank, and if he can be as great as he has been all these years. I mean, now he's going up against a Cinderella team. Last time they played a Cinderella in a big spot, they choked. They absolutely choked against George Mason in 2006. And the last time they got to the Final Four, they choked again with Kemba Walker on the team against Michigan State and Tom Izzo. So now I want to see if Coach Calhoun can put a solid 40 minutes together against a very brilliant and very bright-minded Brad Stevens, who has just literally shocked the world and got this Butler team back to the promised land.
Stealing a little bit of my thunder here, Joe. I was going to go with Jim Calhoun myself, but
Sorry,
also
bro.
I'm going to go back. I'll go back to something I said before. If Jeremy Lamb scores 12 points in tonight's game, UConn loses this game by double digits. Lamb needs to step up. I think that Brad Stevens is going to put a defensive emphasis on Kemba Walker, which every team should, but I feel like Brad Stevens, a guy who could have been a corporate finance major or a corporate finance future, as he actually turned down a few accounting jobs in order to take the Butler job. I think that he's going to have a defensive emphasis on Kemba. He's going to have something special up his sleeve in order to shut down Kemba. So it's going to be guys, especially Jeremy Lamb, that need to step up and win this game. And like Rich said, you're going to have to shut down Matt Howard. Not sure if that's possible, but you're going to have to put forth your best foot in order to do so. But Jeremy Lamb's my key player. I think Jeremy Lamb succeeds, UConn succeeds, and they bring home the national title. Let's go to predictions. Give me, you don't have to give me a score, but give me a range of points here. They win it by 4. They win it by 3. Go ahead.
I'm going to have to take UConn by 6 points in this game tonight. UConn is undefeated in tournament play this season. They've won the Maui Championship. They won the Big East Championship. And so far, they're 5-0 in the NCAA tournament play. I think they finish it out tonight. It's going to have to be a total complete effort tonight from Walker, Lamb, the bigs underneath with Oriaki and Akwandu. So I think UConn wins tonight.
Butler wins because of their dominance down low. Shelvin Mack is going to cancel out Kemba Walker. They'll cancel out each other. Butler's winning this game. They're going to win it by 5 points. They're going to do what they didn't do last year. And Brad Stevens is going to be known as one of the greatest coaches in the past 5 years.
Brad Stevens couldn't take down Coach K. I think he fails to take down Jim Calhoun, too. I've been all over the glass slipper. I like Butler. I love Brad Stevens. I think that UConn wins this game. I don't think Kemba allows them to lose. And I think that Jeremy Lamb is going to step up enough to where Kemba Walker might be the secondary player in tonight's game. I think that Lamb will lead the UConn Huskies in points because of the amount of emphasis they're going to put on Kemba Walker. But the ultimate matchup, Jim Calhoun versus Brad Stevens, it's a win-win for me because I get to see if Jim Calhoun comes out of retirement and his dormant coaching ability, or whether or not Brad Stevens can step up and come into the light and be the next up-and-coming coach. We are High Heat Network. Please check us out at highheatnetwork.blogspot.com or on Facebook. Just simply search High Heat Network. I'm Dow Genetti with Joe Landini and Richard Raymond.